I always try as many times as I can to bring somebody with a different, unique perspective in franchising. You are the first multi-unit franchisee I have ever had on the show. So I think it's going to be really cool for you to give a perspective as the franchisee and somebody who's really been around the block in franchising to help people that are listening, whether they're emerging founders, making sure that, you know, they're doing the right thing, and want to hear from you from the franchisee side of things. And also for people who are maybe looking to invest in a franchise, and you're going to give great insight, I know. So just want to give a little bit of color background. I understand that, Jesse, you own close to 50 franchises, multi-unit brands. So right now you're the owner of several of Sports Clips, Oxy Fresh Carpet, and Ideal Image. And you also previously also owned Little Caesars and Valpak franchise as well.
Yes.
All right. How in the world did you get started in franchising?
This is a great question. So in my early 20s, in fact, when I was still in college, and to kind of date myself. So around 1997, I got asked to take an internship at a small technology startup in the town I was going to college. And that lasted till 2005. So from 97 to 2005, not the internship, but the employment with them. So basically this is during the .com era, right? And I had a great position. Basically, I, at one point or another, did everything in the company other than the actual hard coding of the software. So product development, training, sales, accounting, you name it. I would help wherever I was. I think I was employee number 13, actually, ever. So I realized they were never going to have me be a partner of their company. And I understood that, and it was totally fine. But it was such an entrepreneurial job. I mean, it was a wild, wild west back then, if you think about it, with the internet.
Right.
And I caught the entrepreneurial bug. And there was a local, keep in mind, I'm living in a college town still. So pizza is a big deal, right?
Oh, yeah.
And there was a local pizzeria, and they were kind of on their last end. Food was great, but just the owner was tired. And we were going to go in and we were going to buy it, my brother and I. And one of my bosses, one of the owners of the company I was working for, it's like, don't do that. I'm like, well, why? He's like, you got a lot of great skills, but you don't know how to run a business yet. You should get a franchise. And that was the first time I heard the word franchise. I'm like, what is this? You know? He's like, well, they're going to work with you and they're going to help you learn how to run the business. Okay, sounds good. So I just got on the internet, started searching pizza franchises, and lo and behold, I came across Little Caesars. So after about 10 seconds of deciding that that was the brand I was going to do, I submitted my franchise inquiry and said, all right, let's do this. And so we caught them at transition time, where they were going from pizza and trying to do delivery and trying to be other things other than Little Caesars. And it was just before they got into the hot and ready. In fact, the hot and ready was happening in some of the markets, but you couldn't find any information about it on their company website or anything. So we opened our first location as a $5 hot and ready pizza place, and it just took off. I mean, it was amazing. It was like, hold on tight for that rocket ship.
And where was this?
Well, Marion, Illinois was our first location. Very southern tip of Illinois. Yep.
Okay.
Like 16 or 17,000. It was not a huge town, but we pulled in far, far, far away, and we were very, very busy. I mean, it took 16 months, and we opened up our second one in another town down the road. And then 16 months after that, we had two more open. And all that was done for me saving up a little over $100,000 and enough cash to live on for a year, and putting that money into a bank account and getting an SBA loan against it and opening up my first location.
Wow. Yeah, I was going to ask you, did you bootstrap this? How'd you do this? So,
yeah.
So now you roll it into a second one after, you said 16 months?
Yeah, 16 months. Because, there is a learning curve, and being that young, I mean, I was 26, 27, and my brother was 23, 24.
Okay.
We still had a lot of learning. Both just operationally and just life, how to manage everything.
Sure.
So it took us a little bit, but I mean, we got enough money that we could afford the loan payment on the first store and have enough cash to go and get another loan for the second store and then start paying ourselves. I didn't pay myself until we opened up the second location.
What year is this?
March of 2005 is when we opened up the first location, and then September 2006 is when we opened up the next one.
Okay. So we've got two franchise locations, you and your brother. Where do we go from here? Do you guys thinking about, and you have dollar signs dancing in your eyes? We're going to open up all these locations around the country. What's the vision for you young 20-something-year-olds at this point?
Well, we went gangbusters. We opened up 2 more in the next 16 months. So we got up to 4 real quick. And that became a little bit of an operational challenge for us because when we had 2 locations, one of us could be at one and the other one could be at the other. So then we had to learn what everyone has to learn when they're in business by themselves and they open up the second location is how do you leave the first location to go handle the second location? So that took a little bit time and learning experiences to happen, right? And at that same time, we were like, we want the stores to get even busier because we'd like to pay these loans off even quicker, right?
Right.
And so we were looking in rural markets, there wasn't a lot of like marriage mail options. So we opened up a Valpak franchise and started selling advertisement. Of course, we had our Little Caesars pizzas in there too. And we did that for many, many years. And during that time, I would go out and interview other business owners to see if they were someone that should be in the envelope and advertise in it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I came to the conclusion that I needed to be both in the salon business and the carpet cleaning business. And it was real simple. I met really good, nice business owners, but they did not understand the importance of marketing. And I thought, well, if I understand the importance of marketing and I can operate just as well as them, I'm going to win every time.
Wow.
So that's what we did. We parlayed and got into our next 2 brands because of that.
This really all happened. You can kind of say, not just because of Little Caesars, but really Valpak, because that opened up your eyes to how
Oh, yeah.
poorly so many people run a business, right? And they're not doing the marketing.
Yeah, and this is just an observation I made years after the fact. And not every business makes sense to be in Valpak, right? This isn't a one size fits all kind of marketing solution.
Right.
But anyone that was willing to take a meeting with me and learn about the product and the service, they're still, for the most part, in business. Everyone that refused to meet with me and just see what we were about, a lot of them are no longer with us.
Wow. Would you say that you were also, was there a stroke of luck in this that you could have picked at, 26 years old, 24 years old, brother? You could have easily picked the wrong franchise and the story could have ended differently.
Well, the first 2 locations we opened up, just like 7 years prior, there were Little Caesars in those markets.
And what happened?
Well, I mean, Little Caesars, all brands kind of have an ebb and flow,
Right.
especially when they get big and nationwide. And it was just one of those ebbs and flows where they had a lot of store closures and kind of went down for a little bit. And then when we joined, they were on an upswing again. And so to be honest with you, there was a lot of people that were like, I miss Little Caesars Pizza. And there was a lot of people like, they went out of business. They don't do delivery. There was a lot of skepticism, especially when you're in your 20s and you don't have any other business experience. But
Sure.
as far as I always luck is something to play into it. But my brother and I were prepared to muscle that thing up and over the finish line no matter what. I mean, we were Cortez. We burnt our ships.
Right.
There was no coming back.
No plan B, right?
No plan B.
What are
No
your
plan
thoughts
B.
on plan B, by the way, for people that like to, keep the job and try to, have a franchise at the same time because they're scared? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I'm always one for options for sure. But, when you've got something else that you're doing for a living and then you buy a franchise, I hate to say it, but 9 times out of 10, you bought a hobby, and hobbies normally cost money and don't make money. So most of the time, and there's some exceptions to the rule depending on the particular brand and the industry you're in. As an example, I'm not a licensed cosmetologist. I can't work within the 4 walls of a Sport Clips legally, right? And you don't want me cutting your hair anyway. So is that a semi-absentee business? It is. It absolutely is. I don't have to go visit a location for months at a time, and it'll run just fine as long as I'm watching the numbers
Right.
on the POS. I'm talking to the manager. I'm reading the customer reviews. I don't have to go there and do that. The Little Caesars is a little bit different. I can make a pepperoni pizza. So that was a different mindset because I was like, well, someone called in sick. I got to come in. In the salons, as an example, when someone calls in sick, I need to find another cosmetologist that's trained to come in and cover that shift. I can't come in and do it myself. So I would say that the Sport Clip franchisee owners that are the most successful focus on being a business owner full time. Now, I've got different brands, so you could be diluted in that, but I'm a full-time business owner, right?
Sure.
I'm not a full-time W-2 and high income W-2 employee, and then I've got the side gig going on, right? And The other thing is, in some of my entrepreneurial groups, they'll be like, "Hey, franchises. Yeah, I was thinking about doing that with my wife." I was like, "Did she come to you with this?" Well, no, I just think, she's got time. She could do it. She's a smart girl. I'm like, "Do you like her?" I'm like, "Well, if you want to stay married to her,
right?
don't do this unless she comes to you and says this is her passion. This isn't rent a passion kind of thing. You've got to have the passion for the industry you're going to get into."
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fumey, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.